Hello everyone, welcome to the video series on Python programming. In this video, we are going to learn about iterative statements in Python. When we are programming in Python, we might face a situation where we have to repeat one or more statements many times. This repetition can be carried out using loops. Let us understand the concept of loop using a real-life example. Suppose you are asked to run and take 5 rounds of a playground. Before you start running, you fix a starting point. On reaching the starting point again, you complete one round. Similarly, when you reach the starting point for the second time, your second round is considered to be completed. This goes on for the 5 rounds. In this way, you can keep a track of the rounds until the process of taking rounds gets completed. Let us say that C is a control variable. We need to initialize the value of C. So in this example, we'll initialize C equal to 0. When you complete the first round, the value of C becomes 1. After the second round, the value of C should become equal to 2. This can be set using a formula C is equal to C plus 1. So when the rounds get completed, the variable C will go on incrementing. After incrementing, the control variable C will be checked against the maximum number of repetitions, in this case, 5. Let us understand this example using a flowchart. So once we start our program, we need to take a starting point, which is nothing but define a control variable C. We initialize the control variable C to 0. Now we'll check the condition whether the number of rounds is less than equal to 5. If it is less than equal to 5, we need to take one more round. So we'll increment the control variable C is equal to C plus 1, and then we'll again check the condition. This will go on till the number of rounds is equal to 5. Once the number of rounds is equal to 5, the program will stop its execution. The advantage of using the looping technique is that it reduces the number of instructions, and lesser the number of instructions, lesser is the memory consumption. The control variable in a loop is used to store the initial value, and it gets incremented after every loop till it reaches its final value. A control variable can also be known as a counter variable. Iterative statements are the statements that keep on repeating themselves as long as a given condition is true. When the condition becomes false, the loop terminates itself and the iterative statements stop executing. These are also called as looping statements or simply loops. An iterative statement is based on 3 values. One is the start value or the initial value. For example, C is equal to 0. The second one is the test condition. For example, C is less than equal to 5. And the third one is a step value. For example, C is equal to C plus 1. A step value is basically the value with which the control variable C will be incremented or decremented in the loop. Every loop requires a variable known as the control variable. The initial value of the control variable is assigned at the beginning of the loop. The final value, along with the step value of the control variable, also needs to be defined. The step value can be used to increment or decrement the control variable as desired. In Python, the iterative statements can be classified into 2 types. The first one is the for loop, and the second one is the while loop. For loop is used when we know exactly how many times a loop body needs to be executed. Thus, it is known as a definite loop. In Python, the working of a for loop is based on various operators and functions. A in-membership operator can be used with for loop. Membership operators play an important role in controlling the working of a loop. Let's take an example of a for loop with the in operator. For I in 5, 10, 15, 20, colon, enter, print I. So the in operator will first check if there is a value in the list. If yes, then the in operator will return the value true. If the value returned by the in operator is true, then the loop control variable, which is nothing but the variable I, will be assigned a value from the sequence. So here, the value 5 will be first assigned to the variable I, and it will be printed. Similarly, 10, 15, and 20 will also be assigned to the variable I, and all these values will get printed on the output screen. Go to Run and click on Run module to see the output. So all our values that were present in the for loop have been printed on our output screen using the in operator. Now, every time the in operator returned the true value in the previous program, a new value was assigned to the variable I and printed on the output screen. This process of printing values continued until the last value in the sequence was assigned to the variable I and printed. The loop was terminated after printing the last value from the sequence. The range function is used along with the for loop in Python. It is helpful in generating a sequence of numbers in the form of a list. For example, when we write range and the number 10 in parentheses, this will generate 10 numbers from 0 to 9. The syntax of the range function is range parenthesis initial value, comma, final value, comma, step value. The initial value is nothing but the integer that specifies the start position. Similarly, the final value specifies the end position. The step value specifies either the increment or decrement of the value that is required to reach the final value. Let's try to use the range function in a Python program. I is equal to 5, enter, print I in range 1, 10. In this code, the initial value of the variable is 5, while the final value is 10 minus 1, that means 9. Each time the loop is executed, the value of I is incremented by 1. So the final sequence will be 1 to 9. Now, the variable I, which in this case is 5, will be checked within this range, that is 1 to 9. And if the variable 5 is present in the range, the output of the program will be true. Otherwise, the output will be false. So here, since the variable I is equal to 5 and it is present in the range, the output should be true. Let's try to run this program and see what we get as the output. As you can see, we have got the output as true. In the previous code, we used the range function to check if the number 5 was in range from 1 to 9. In this code, we'll use the range function to check if the number 15 is in range or not. I is equal to 15, enter, print I in range 1, comma 10. Let's see what we get as the output. So we have got the value as false since 15 is not in the range of 1 to 9. The range function in for loop can be used to iterate through a sequence of numbers. Thus, the range function can be also used to display numbers on the output screen. Let's see how this is done in a Python program. For I in range 1, comma 10, print I. So in this program, the variable I will be assigned values from 1 to 9 with an increment of 1. All these values will be printed on the output screen. Go to Run and select Run module to see the output. So the numbers from 1 to 9 have been printed as desired by us. The range function can be also used to display even numbers from 1 to 20. For I in range 2, comma 22, comma 2, colon, print I. So the starting point is 2, the ending point is equal to the final value minus the step value, which is 20, and the step value is 2. So the numbers will be incremented by 2. Let's run this program to see whether we get the even numbers from 1 to 20. So our program has given us the even numbers from 1 to 20 successfully. Now let's write a Python program to display the Fibonacci series. A Fibonacci series is a series in which each number is the sum of the two preceding numbers. For example, 0, 1, 0 plus 1 is again 1, then 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, and so on. So let's write a Python program for it. X is equal to int input enter the number up to series needs to be printed. N1 is the first number that needs to be initialized as 0. N2 is equal to 1. Now print N1. Similarly, print N2. Now we need to write a formula that will help us print the Fibonacci series. For I in range 1, comma x plus 1, colon, n3 is equal to n1 plus n2. print n3 and then n1 is equal to n2 and n2 is equal to n3. So we have written this part of the code to calculate the Fibonacci series correctly. So let's run this program and see whether we get the Fibonacci series as the output. Go to Run, click on Run module. Enter the number up to the series needs to be printed. So I'll enter 5. So the Fibonacci series have been successfully printed as our output. The while loop can be used in a Python program where the number of iterations to be performed is not known beforehand. The while loop keeps on executing the block of statements as long as the specified test condition evaluates to be true. The four main components of a while loop are initialization, where the loop control variable is assigned a certain initial value. The second main component is condition or test expression. This condition statement checks whether the loop body will be further executed or not. If the condition is satisfied, then the statements in the while loop are executed. Otherwise, the while loop ends. The loop body contains the set of statements that are required to iterate or repeat. The fourth main component of the while loop is the step value. This statement keeps on updating the control variable so that the final value is achieved, and when the final value is achieved, the loop can be terminated. Now let's try using the while loop in Python to find the factorial of a number. The factorial of 4 will be equal to 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, which is equal to 24. So accordingly, we'll calculate the factorial using our Python program. Num is equal to int input, enter the number, colon. Fact is equal to 1. While num is greater than 0, colon, fact is equal to fact into num. Enter. Num is equal to num minus 1. So we have written these two lines in order to calculate the factorial of the number entered by the user. Now let's print the factorial. Print factorial of the given number is, comma, fact. Now we'll remove the indent from this print statement as we do not want it to be under the while loop. Let's run this program. I will enter 4. So the factorial of the given number, that is 4, has been calculated to be 24, which is correct. So in this video, we learned about the iterative statements such as the for loop and the while loop. We also learned how the in operator and the range function can be used along with the for loop in Python programming. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you.